We are just still processing through the day. I just want to take a quick moment to remind you all that Pineapple Support is a non-profit organisation, and events like this can only be held with donations and sponsorships. So if anyone has the odd dollar that they can spare, please head over to our website and make that donation, because obviously we do hope we can help and push forward and reduce stigma for sex work and mental health. And with that in mind, I'm now going to hand you over to one of our fantastic therapists, Rachael Wells, who is going to do resilience through trauma presentation for you. So Rachael, I'm going to hand over to you now and let you lead the way with the lovely audience. Thank you so much. And I'll be back again in the next hour to present the next person.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Kelly. All right. So let's see. Could you make me host real quick so I could share my screen? Okay. Yep, just let me know if you can switch me over to host so I can go on and share my screen. Leah. Okay, let me chatter real quick. Okay. All right, well, I'll just go ahead and begin, and then if they make me host at some point, then I'll have something for you to look at as well besides my face. But my name is Rachael Wells. I am a trauma therapist and licensed clinical manager of a team that works to ensure better health for those that have psychotic disorders and trauma. So on that note, I also do EMDR. I am an EMDR consultant, a yoga teacher, and all sorts of bits and bobs in between. So I have been connected with Pineapple Support for, gosh, I don't know, perhaps 2 years. So what we'll be working on today is really learning about trauma, ways to cope through it, and some actual skills that we can do. So I will switch over. So forgive me if I look like I'm doing something else. So I am just looking at my presentation. All right. So some things that we're going to be talking about is resilience, perseverance, and balance. That's going to be kind of the whole theme of what we're talking about today. And I will, if I do get screen sharing, I'll go ahead and show it to you guys. But for now, I'll just be kind of going off of that. So what we're going to be doing is some skill building to cope with trauma, some active and passive skills, talking about the importance of resilience, and practicing non-judgment. So I'm going to try to give some education and then some actual tools that we can use and try to blend those together. So what is resilience? This is talked about so frequently. It's not quite yet a buzzword perhaps, but it's spoken about often enough that, you know, at this point, it's almost one of those words that we don't maybe quite know exactly what it means when someone's referencing it to us. So resilience is really a skill that makes it so that we can roll with resistance in our life, roll with difficulty and change instead of fighting against the inevitable. So with that, the best metaphor I can think of is how we handle hydroplaning. So when you're in the car, if you're in that experience, our natural reaction is to go against it. And yet, what can save our lives is turning our wheel with the slide. So that's a great explanation for how our brain, our kind of survival skill, as smart as it is, wants to do something that actually could put us into danger. So this is a metaphor for when our trauma responses get too far and how they can actually make it so that we aren't safe or can't connect with others and build a fulfilling life. So really, in essence, the things that we do to build resilience will seem in opposition to what our impulsivity wants us to do. So again, it's not so much that we can't trust our gut, it's just that we have alarm bells ringing a bit too frequently. So every so often, the alarm is right, and we need to exit the building or get out of the situation. And other times, it's a false alarm, but all of the alarms sound the same. So it's hard for us to actually know which is which. So where does resilience come from? That's the hard part, is that not all of us are born with that skill, and it's not our fault. It's not, because some of us may not have parents that are teaching us when we are having, big emotions as a child, how to handle them. They won't sit down and breathe with us or color with us or ask us what's going on. They may tell us, stop crying, shut up, move on. I don't want to hear that. I'll give you something to cry about. Some of the things that further compact our trauma and make it worse in the end. So resilience, like many other skills, is something that we can build at any age. So as much as it would be easier to be a native speaker of resilience, there's nothing wrong with learning it as our second language. So the key to healing trauma. Now, over my years, I'm working with people that have survived all types of trauma. I specialize mostly in working with those that have the sexual abuse spectrum, human trafficking, things like that, child molestation, adult sexual assault, and anything in between. I've also worked with survivors of homicide, grief and loss, tragedy, natural disasters, and war. And in all of that time, I've noticed that the real key, which is very difficult, and believe me, when you hear this, you're going to think, okay, what am I supposed to do with that? That doesn't make any sense. We'll get there. We have to learn to live in the opposition, in the fear, in the discomfort, the isolation, the dark, and the depths. So basically, all the yucky stuff that we'd rather avoid, drink away, smoke away, buy away, gamble away. The stuff that sticks around, and we know that we need to listen to it, and yet we can't bring ourselves to do it. Power is built within those spaces, as scary as they are. Because if we took a positive spin, say, okay, so in this situation, we're dealing with sitting with the pain, fear, and discomfort of trauma-related situations. But if we think of other things that we fear but we're excited about, we typically try to sit with it and then see what happens. So for instance, going on a roller coaster, going sledding, ice skating, scuba diving, anything you're doing for the first time that's very different and challenging to the body and the mind, there's an end result that's typically positive. Whereas over here, we don't have that evidence that there can be a positive light at the end of the tunnel because we probably haven't seen it in our homes. So really what we're doing when we sit with difficulty is a trust fall with ourselves. We're asking ourselves, can I sit in the tears, sit in the anger, the rage, the disgust, the contempt for just a moment to see if I learn anything from this, if I learn anything about myself, instead of saying, I can't feel that, I can't cry, I'm gonna die. Because a lot of the times when we feel deep pain, we think, I can't handle it, and I am just simply going to cease to exist if I have to handle this. So we just don't, because we really don't know what it looks like to ride that wave. So I'm going to go through a couple of prongs of PTSD and trauma, some of the real core issues within handling trauma and abuse, and try to break down how do we do the opposite. That's really the focus today, is how to do the opposite of what our reactive, impulsive, fearful self wants us to do. And we're going to try to fall into that higher self. And here's some of the ways that we can do that. So PTSD and trauma responses are essentially a reaction to, this is right out of the DSM, an experience of real or threatened death, critical injury, or sexual abuse. And this can also be vicarious trauma as well, if you hear something one too many times. So that's happened. Whatever it is that's happened to us, it's happened. There's not so much that we can do about that. But how do we do the opposite to start healing the wounds of the fact that there was some sort of critical mental, emotional, or physical injury? First things first, we have to, in time, expose ourselves to safe and loving environments in which we can be our authentic selves. You might be thinking right now, there's no such thing like that for me. My friends have all left, people are ghosting me, my family doesn't like me, it's COVID, where the hell am I supposed to get these people? So we throttle back a bit. I'm not saying that we're going to find our soulmate or our new chosen family so quickly and easily. But are there even spaces in our community, online or in person, with safety protocols in place, that feel safe to us? Is there a bookstore? Is there a park, a lake, a pool? Is there somewhere that gives you a sense of warmth and peace? For some people, it may be a spiritual place, spiritual or religious. Is there anywhere in the world that we've ever felt a little more safe than typical? That's all we're looking for. We're not looking for bliss or all our walls are down. We're looking for just a little give of, okay, when I'm in this place or at this place, I feel a little different, a little bit better. That's where we start. When we start normalizing that we're allowed to have that. Another way that we can do that is explore ourselves via counseling and self-awareness to find out our likes, dislikes, boundaries, and true core identity. Plenty of people have come to me and said, Rachel, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I like. I don't know any hobbies. I have no identity. And we start experimenting. It was a little easier pre-COVID, but I would tell people, okay, so the library has about 40 classes next week. They've got languages, they've got art, crocheting, they've got computer skills, they've got anything under the sun. Why don't you pick 2 and go? If you hate it, all right, then you know that you don't like something. That's identity building. What you don't like, take something out to make space for another potential thing that you might enjoy. Same thing with boundaries. Some people say, I don't know what my boundaries are. Check your stomach out. We'll talk about this later. Typically, our gut does a little when we say yes to something that we don't actually want to do. So there's little cues that are going through that are exactly how we learn how to get ourselves back. So we can start that trust building process in ourselves and move on from there. It's really the small things here. Okay, another big part of trauma is that we experience dreams, flashbacks, or intrusive memories. How do we do the opposite of that? You might be thinking, okay, not like I can change the content of my dreams or memories that pop up. Not asking you to. Some stuff is just going to happen. But it's what we do with it that is really the test here. So things that we can do are self-soothe before bed. This can be just laying with your eyes closed, sitting on your patio, listening to some nice music, something to bring a sense of peace. And people say, oh, that doesn't work. And then I'll use a little sarcasm. I'm like, okay, sitting on your phone for 2 hours before bed, self-soothing, does that feel good? You're getting all sorts of blue light and crazy content, and it feels just like it did every other hour of the day. So why not do something different? I'm not saying it's going to feel excellent or take all your pain or trauma away, but it certainly will be something different. And focusing on compassionate self-talk. We'll get to that later, and we'll talk about exactly how to do that. Engaging in practical sleep hygiene. Practice makes perfect. So it's not so much, okay, every night I have to go to bed at blank time, and if I don't, then I've screwed up. We're ballparking it here. So if you used to go to bed at 1 a.m. or all sorts of hours of the night, try 12:30. Why not, right? It's something different. Healing is really just a lot of experimenting until we start building ourselves back. And probably the craziest thing I'm going to say, maybe there's more crazy things, is allowing ourselves to experience the flashbacks and nightmares. I've lived this myself, and I can tell you that it's true. I would never recommend this if it wasn't. But when we try to completely disrupt, disconnect, and just, get rid of it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to think about it. You are prolonging your trauma. Avoidance is prolonged suffering disguised as safety. That is what it is. It's a natural response. So no need for self-blame here. Oh, I'm avoiding. I'm not even doing trauma right. No. That's what the human body wants to do. That's why trauma and PTSD is difficult, because we're fighting a battle that almost seems illogical. But here's the thing. The brain wants to heal. If we don't allow it to, it begins knocking on the door, trying to come in. That's what those intrusive memories, thoughts, images, flashbacks, and dreams are. It's going, hey, I got a problem here. Okay, I'll come back later, and I'm going to bring some of my friends too. Bam, bam, bam. And so on and so forth. And this is how people end up with complex chronic PTSD. So what we're trying to do is allow our trauma a hotel stay, but not a stay at Hotel California, where it's here forever and ever and ever. We got to run towards our fear, because trauma doesn't expect us to go, okay, all right, I'm experiencing a flashback. Okay. All right, here's what I'm seeing. Okay, I'm not there right now. Let me touch. Okay, here's my cat, or here's this, or I think I smell what I made for dinner. Okay. All right. And we start working our way out of it. What it expects us to do is go, oh God, I can't look at this. I can't look at this. I can't. The brain shuts down, dissociates, and now we have more stuff that we have to handle next time. And I so wish I could show this to you, but just trust me on this. This is one of my favorite pictures. So it's a simple little cartoon. There's a person on this side, just a regular little dude, and then a big monster that's fully tatted up, and all the tattoos say things like self-doubt, unworthiness, fear, anxiety, sadness. Both of these guys, okay, oop, I became host. All right, exciting. All right, guys, so I gotta show you this. It's really a great picture, and I'm sure you don't want to hear me explain it. Okay, cool. All right. This picture is everything. Now, as we look at this, is there anything that we can think of that this person could do to stop this battle? Or is this person meant to just, I mean, look at their feet, meant to get pulled right into that hole, which to me, as simple as this image is, looks endless. Drop the rope. That's really what we're talking about today. That pit's always going to be there. That big dude over there is always going to be there. That rope's always going to be there. The treacherousness of dealing with our trauma, the trauma wanting to run us down, the fighting, it's always there. But if we drop the rope, walk over and look at the trauma, we flip the whole script. I said, I see you, I hear you, but I can't be afraid of you because you're within me. And you're here and I got to put up with you. And we'll talk more about what exactly dropping that rope looks like and what that really means. Okay, so another thing that we do is we avoid memories, thoughts, feelings, triggers, and reminders. What we've been talking about, avoidance. It's prolonged suffering disguised as safety. We think every moment that we choose to not feel is us keeping ourselves safe, and yet we're quite wrong. So how do we do the opposite? We allow these experiences to come in, and we use detachment from thoughts. A simple way to detach from thoughts, instead of saying, I'm pissed off, this is never going to go my way, I'm noticing that my mind is telling me that there's anger and feelings that things aren't going to go right. Sounds simple, may sound silly, but your brain is actually listening, recording, and processing everything that you're saying out loud and internally all the time. So the more that it processes these thoughts of I'm bad, I'm this, I'm that, it's building a foundation of a belief system. So if you start changing simple words that give you that degree of separation from I'm this to I'm noticing that my mind, a little bit of a separation from you, your whole identity, your brain's going to process that differently and notice the change in language. So we begin to learn that our thoughts and feelings are not always true. Our mind can lie. We don't have to obey our mind, and we do not have to take orders from our mind. If I asked you to sit in and just listen to a stream of thought for 60 seconds, you'd probably hear a multitude of lies, orders, demands. Who says we have to listen to that? If we just watch it and go, okay. That's personally how I do it. I use a bit of a sense of humor and sarcasm. Like, all right, I don't know what that's about, but thanks for coming. Instead of attaching to everything. Oh my God, that is true. Oh my God, what if this happens? Oh my God. When I just watch it go by, that's why I'm so darn relaxed. Anyways, so we realize that we can experience the thoughts, feelings, and memories while we observe them. This doesn't mean that we're just going to sit back and not have a care in the world about disturbing things coming through our mind. That's not the goal. It's that you can feel it and then also be the person watching it. Detachment. All right, this is a very important one. So when we have trauma, we also engage in black and white thinking and self-blame. How do we do the opposite? We have to get real with ourselves. These might be some questions to ask yourself right now to jot down. It uses a little bit of humor and the black and white so you can see how really unhelpful this is to us. So we got to get real with ourselves. Can really no one be trusted? Not one single person. Is the world always completely dangerous? Every single second, every single place in the world? Did I truly cause each thing that happened to me? Does the other person in any way or other people have any responsibility? Are our whole lives ruined? We learn to live in the gray area of life instead of the black and white, which holds much less truth. So we use this increasing knowledge of ourselves, as mentioned earlier, that trust, and we start to navigate spaces a little more safely, start linking up with communities and people. Maybe we don't think they can help us, or that we're long gone, we're broken, damaged, we're done. It's too far gone for us. But if we don't try, what will be different? Always ask, is what I'm doing helping me live a valued, meaningful life? So sometimes we're on edge and we feel like we're walking on eggshells with the world. That hypervigilance, that looking over the shoulder emotionally and physically. So doing the opposite of that is we take ourselves out of the past, which typically when we have PTSD, there's one foot in the past, one foot in the future. The past is going to have all your why questions. Why did this person do this? Why didn't I do that? Why did that happen? I don't understand. And we review our memories hundreds and hundreds of times, thinking one time we're going to hit the jackpot and find the secret answer. We're not. There's no clarity there most of the time. And then the other leg is out way in the future, where no answers are going to be found until we're there. And those are all the what if questions. What if that happens? What's going to happen when this goes down? As we can see, these are questions that literally can't have answers. So it gives us a sense of safety and comfort sometimes to have anxiety take over because we think we're getting to some sort of answer, because we're asking questions, we're being a detective. But we're not even assigned to a case. There's nothing that we can find. So we use our breath, our body, and our mind to notice the everyday details of ourselves, others, and our environment. So our mind gets used to being present and grounding itself. So something that I really want everyone to know is that PTSD and or trauma-related experiences or anxiety is treatable and healing is possible. A lot of people think that this is some sort of lifelong label. Yes, the trauma is going to be there. Absolutely. We're always going to have a little element of the PTSD there. I'm not going to lie and say that everything is going to be a blank slate. But the more that we work on stuff, the less it will be present in our life as of right now. So some of the things that we're going to be going through is mindfulness, calming our body, allowing uncomfortable thoughts, and this self-compassionate self-talk. So just put that question there again, just as a little, trying to plant that seed. Okay, so some 4 activities. If you're listening or watching this and you are not ready, it's okay. If there's one that you're like, I'll try that one, but not that one, go for it. Remember, I said that working through trauma is just seeing if we can get this much give. It's not about, going full to the max and trying to do everything all at once. But here's where we're going to start. If you're willing to do this with me, I'd love to invite you to take one object near you and set a timer for 1 minute, 60 seconds. What you're going to do is observe the nuances of this object like you've never experienced it before. You're going to engage sight, including colors, variations, smell, texture, especially if it's food. If it's food, that's one that you can really engage with because you're going to have the taste as well. But whatever it is, even the most basic, boring thing, it doesn't matter. Pick it up and explore it. For some people, this is going to feel excruciating. Just try it. You may not make it the whole 60 seconds, that's okay. But let's just take a moment and try this out. Okay. So I didn't exactly time it. So it may have been less, it may have been more. This is an exercise, even if you didn't try it now, I would encourage you to kind of keep in your toolbox. Most of the stuff is going to sound completely inane, by the way. That's how trauma is. Trauma wants us to fight everything. They're like, no, that's not going to work. Nope. I'm just meant to be traumatized and angry and scared and suffering for the rest of my time. That's how PTSD works, unfortunately. But once you start trying these things and just allowing yourself to just do and be instead of meet some expectation, like I said, if you don't get to 60 seconds, oh, what? Is someone going to arrest you? No, that's your business. Whatever you got from the time that you could spend, what did you learn? I've had people come up with really interesting insights from this. You know, about the sturdiness of the object that they were with, or that it was like them. I had someone with Play-Doh and they were like, this is just like me. It's malleable, it can move, it can change. So give it a shot. This helps tie us into the moment. So if you're like, oh my God, my mind is way too fast for that. Well, it's not going to slow down if you don't try. Here's a skill that can start chipping away at that. Doesn't mean your mind isn't going to race while you do it, but you're starting to build that foundation for your brain to rewire. And that's where we start. So, calming our body. Now, this one's going to be a little goofy. So, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and I'm going to put myself on blast and make myself look silly because if I'm asking you to do it, I can't not do it. So, ocean breath is a very powerful calming technique. There's thousands of other breathing styles. This one may not be right for you. It's just the one I happen to pick that seems to have some good benefits for people that I've worked with, including myself. So I didn't want to put the whole explanation of how to do this on there, or else you'd feel like you were reading all day. So I just thought I'd show you. So ocean breath is taking in air through the nostrils, breathing out through the mouth, but the mouth is closed. Now, I know this one took me a little bit to learn. So a way to explain it is if you've ever needed to clean like your sunglasses or your glasses and you kind of do that puff like, that's kind of what we're doing, but with the mouth closed. Another way to explain it is like Darth Vader. So I'm going to show you what it's like and what it kind of sounds like. You may or may not be able to hear me depending. So if you put your finger under your nose when you do it, that's where the air is coming out, but it won't really feel like it. It'll just feel like air is kind of roiling around in your mouth. So there's something about this that triggers the vagus nerve, which is a whole system that really is attached to dealing with trauma. So calming the vagus nerve. This is a great skill to do it. You can do it a couple times, or just learn how to get used to it. But let's go ahead and give it a shot. And something that might help you if you're feeling a little odd is you can put your hand on your stomach to just try to bring some awareness to the stomach, since a lot of us tend to breathe from the chest. It's not really the best for whole breathing, but it's what most adults do versus babies who breathe from the belly. So even if we just put a little hand on the belly, it just gives us that awareness. It may not change much for where we're breathing, but at least we kind of have something in mind, some mind-body connection there. And you'll also notice when I'm breathing that I don't just keep it pushing. You'll kind of hear a pause at the top and the bottom of each breath, just to begin regulating and getting that flow. But that's something that you can use anytime. Yeah, it sounds a little odd. You may not want to do that, sitting on the bus or something, but it's free, it's easy, it takes a couple minutes, and feel free to look it up, and there will be more detailed instructions, or if you want to learn a little bit more about it and its importance, go for it. So, getting back. Allowing uncomfortable thoughts and sensations. Now, I keep driving this point home. Why? Because this is one of the most important skills in working through trauma, anxiety, pain, and suffering. So I picked this visual because this person, at least in my viewpoint, is actually allowing whatever they're going through. They've closed off their visuals and they're just kind of in their own zone, coping. So an example of how to handle this is, say, for instance, and you can do it right now if you'd like, or just bookmark it for later. I can bet you that many of us right now are feeling something uncomfortable. Maybe even scary, terrifying, triggering. It's probably somewhere in your body. It may be that your foot's tapping 100 miles an hour and you don't notice because you do it all the time. Or you may notice, when I did that breathing, I've been tensing my abs like I'm going to get punched. Excuse my neighbors. Or you may notice, I've been kind of up on my tiptoes, or my fists are clenched, or my jaw is clenched. There's all sorts of things that we do where we're carrying discomfort and we're so blind to it because we've been this way since childhood or adolescence. So what's new? Find the area of most discomfort. So for me right now, I do have that tension in the stomach, kind of bracing for impact. That's a lot of why the trauma body is tense, is because we're bracing to fight, even if our trauma response isn't typically fight. So when we find it, we could just kind of sit and look at it internally. So we're not trying to change it, like, I got to stretch out my stomach or unclench my hands. It's fine. However, if your body is fine. But notice it. Sometimes it helps me to kind of imagine that I'm drawing a circle around the area of discomfort, sensations, or emotions. Is it heavy? Is it light? What's the shape? Big? Small? Is there a color associated with this feeling? Is there any movement? Pulsing, stabbing, shaking, shivering, hardness? If you picked it up and held it in your hand, how much would it weigh? Is there anything associated with it, like a sound or a visual? Now I'm kind of speeding it up, but if you got to a point where you went through all those things, we kind of ask ourselves internally, I welcome you here. I know you're here trying to tell me something, and I thank you for that. I don't understand quite yet, but I know there's a reason. And that's part of it. I know that was, like I said, kind of fast. I typically spend more time on it, but those are some ways to start. Really, our emotions and bodily sensations are just messengers. So if we're going to follow our own advice, don't choose messenger. We got to try to practice not pushing those feelings and sensations away because they're not inherently dangerous or trying to do anything to us. It's that knock again. Hey, you didn't set that boundary you meant to set. You're upset with yourself because you said yes to something you didn't want to. You're not happy with the way that person spoke to you earlier. You're thinking about something from 10 years ago. There's something that we need to do with that information. It's information. How we respond to it, that's us, and we have to own it. Now, self-compassionate self-talk. So, where this starts, and again, this is just a brief little chunk. This is actually an exercise from the researcher, Dr. Kristen Neff. She, her whole life's work is self-compassion, research, and exercises. So her website has so many different things you can try, you can listen to, meditations, exercises, journaling activities. This is exactly where I got this from. So I take no credit for this except to share it with you. So the point of self-compassion is to draw in 3 themes. Mindfulness, which we mentioned earlier when we were observing that object of our choice. Common humanity, which is this idea of that we really aren't alone. We're never going to be the only person that's experienced some sort of difficulty. So it's not to invalidate us and say, wow, other people have felt that way, but it's to draw us towards others. So we realize, no, this is the human experience, unfortunately, is marked by a lot of suffering. That's life. There's a lot of joy and beauty, but there's also plenty of suffering, and we're not promised that we're going to have an easy ride. So this can be used anytime, any place, and is a beautiful exercise to build a lot of the skills in an easy way. So we can call a difficult situation to mind, or we're already in one, so it's already right there. And we see, like we did in the last exercise, if we can find that in the body. Is there somewhere or some place that's holding that pain for us? Can we sit with it and respect it for a moment and be curious about it? So we'll say, it is what it is, which is this is a moment of suffering. If this doesn't vibe for you, this is a moment of difficulty. This is painful. This sucks. Whatever your language is, whatever you want to say that expresses, this is painful right now. Use your words. This will make it more real to you. Suffering is a part of life. We might say other people have shared in this pain. Difficulty is a part of the human experience. There are others hurting with me. Whatever makes you feel connected and understood. And also acknowledging the reality of suffering in the human condition. And then, this part's optional, but typically in this exercise, you'd be invited to put your hand over your heart. I find this to bring a lot of mindfulness and self-compassion together because you've got the mind-body connection. Some people say this is losery or weird or cringy. Like I said, give it a shot. And may I be kind to myself. Or may I give myself the love I deserve. Or may I learn to be kind to myself. If you're not ready to talk about being kind or loving to yourself or deserving, may I learn those things. Again, we're just using this much give. We don't need to go 0 to 60 because that doesn't work either. When we go from I'm the worst person there is to I'm the best person, neither of those are true. No offense, but that's okay. The truth is I'm human and I'm okay as I am. So that's where self-compassion comes in. It helps us level the playing field between us and others and realize we're not better or worse than anyone because of our lot in life. And it brings that reality into our minds. So I will stop sharing here. And really, I want to thank you all for anyone that was listening or doing the exercises along or who popped in. Anyone watching this, I want you to know that you are loved and supported by me, by your community here at Pineapple Support and beyond. And if you need anything from me, I'll actually go ahead and share that screen again. I know that our comment section might not be working, but if there's anything that we spoke about today or that we did that just piqued some sort of interest or thoughts for you, or if you just have feedback, that is my email. So it's my name, RACALLMHC@gmail.com. If you could, please try not to share too much personal or confidential information. I want to keep you safe. But you can also pass along any questions or comments to our team here at Pineapple Support. But other than that, I just want to say I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and I hope you keep watching and enjoy the rest of the last day of the summit. All right, I'll go ahead and change the host on over. And I hope you take care and have a good rest of your day.